Tim Walz. Timmy. I love Tim. Tim Walz, he's a goofball. That's a good way to say it. He's goofy. He is, he's very, he's hot dish made a person. You know what I mean? Not like a person made hot dish. Hot dish made a person, and that's him. And I love it because it's all fake. And he's from Nebraska. He's really a cornhead. It's not not a pornhead, a cornhead. But folks, Tim Walz, he signed 2 executive orders aimed at curbing gun violence Tuesday. Launches into a bizarre rant targeting gun owners as uncaring, and he calls arguments against gun control bullshit, employing the classic "Shame on Us" campaign. Folks, on December 16th, just yesterday, Minnesota Governor Tim Walz signed 2 executive orders aimed at reducing gun violence and enhancing public safety. This action followed slated legislative efforts to pass stricter gun control measures, including bans on assault-style weapons and high-capacity magazines after high-profile shootings earlier this year. These included the June assassination of former House Speaker Melissa Hortman and her husband, and the August mass shooting at Annunciation Catholic Church and School in Minneapolis. There were 2 children that were killed and dozens were injured. Surrounded by Democratic lawmakers, gun violence prevention advocates, and affected families during a Capitol press conference, Walz described the orders as initial steps where broader legislation had faced Republican opposition in a divided state legislature. The first executive order expands public education and outreach on Minnesota's extreme risk protection orders, known commonly as red flag laws, which allow temporary removal of firearms from individuals deemed a threat. It also promotes safe gun storage practices, including providing guidance, gun locks, and safes to families through partnerships with the Department of Education and Department of Public Safety. Additionally, it directs the Department of Commerce to collect data from insurance companies on firearm-related claims and injuries, making Minnesota the first state to quantify the economic costs of gun violence for potential policy insights. The second order establishes a statewide safety council, comprising law enforcement, educators, mental health experts, and community leaders tasked with developing strategies to prevent mass violence, targeted attacks, and domestic terrorism, with recommendations expected within a year. I mean, very interesting. These measures are modest compared to Walz's earlier calls for legislative action and do not impose new restrictions on gun ownership or sales. Walz emphasized that they do not limit your freedoms at all, while criticizing inaction amid public support for stronger measures, citing polls showing majority backing for assault weapons bans. Mostly because a lot of people don't understand what assault weapons means. You ask people what AR means, they will not tell you it means Armalite. They will go, it's assault rifle, right? They are retards, and they're people who shouldn't even have an opinion on this sort of situation, just honestly, from my point of view. Republicans, including Senate Minority Leader Mark Johnson, dismissed the orders as insufficient, advocating instead for mental health support, school security enhancements, and tougher penalties for violent criminals. I mean, that's also, can we just also say that Mark Johnson's idea isn't terrible? The idea of mental health support being a good idea, school security enhancements, yes, maybe. Maybe we should start having metal detectors at every school. I'm not even lying. That's like a good idea. You know what I mean? Tougher penalties for violent criminals. Why not? Minnesota, you could kill your wife with an axe and you could get probation. I'm not even going to lie to you. Like California, if Nick Reiner killed Rob and whatever her name is, let's be real, it's his wife, it's Rob Reiner's wife. Rob and his wife, if they lived in Minnesota and Nick killed him here, he would have gotten probation for 3 months, and they would have handed him a check on his way out the door. They would have been like, get yourself on your feet there, bud. Get yourself like a nice apartment in Audubon or some shit. Or maybe head east for Brainerd, and you're going to get some good property. Just make sure to be to your court date, all right, in 6 years. I honestly think that Rob Reiner, if his son wanted to get away with it, he should have just encouraged the entire family to move up. Move up. And he's like, look, Dad, I know that we've had our issues, but I really think that we crave Minnesota. Don't you want to live in Minnesota, Dad? And then Rob would have been like, what is in Minnesota? And then his son would have been like, I honestly don't know. I think they wear snowshoes and shit. They wear little hats or something. I don't know. And then they eat birds. That's what they do up there. They do some real fun stuff. And then if he managed to convince his dad to do it, man, Minnesota, they would have actually had a parade for him. They would have had a parade. They would have been like, the day that this young, brave drug addict killed his oppressive, non-polyamorous mother and father. What a good man. He truly represents Minnesota's values. I mean, gun rights groups viewed them as political maneuvering rather than substantive solutions. The orders mark the first by Minnesota governor specifically focused on gun violence protection, setting the stage for potential debates in the 2026 legislative season. Let's listen to his claims directly. I want to get it directly from the cow's mouth.
This is the oldest strategy in the world. Oh, I don't know. I can't. I don't know if we can define what an assault.
Can I just say, comb your fucking hair. Comb your hair.
Weapon ban, assault weapon is.
By the way, did you hear that Freudian slip? We can't define an assault weapon ban. He wants a full assault weapon ban. He wants to come into your home personally and take your assault rifles. That's just a fact. I'm sorry. Tim Walz wants to come into your home and he wants to take your guns while you're having tea. He wants to walk into your home and he wants to go, get her. And then then you will have like 6 police grabbing you, twisting your arm around your back and slamming you onto the table. And then he's going to go, where's your safe? And then he's going to do this to every goddamn house. They're going to break in. They're going to be, you know, the SWAT teams when they repel, Christmas Vacation. At the very end when they are like celebrating and he's like, Merry Christmas to all, and then they kidnap the guy, so obviously the SWAT teams come in and they repel and they all smash through the windows, they smash into the house all at once, they raid it. That's exactly, Tim Walz is going to go house by house. There's millions of homes in the state of Minnesota, and it will be apartment buildings, it will be homes, it will be home by home, apartment by apartment, unit by unit. He will hit every single place until every single firearm in the state of Minnesota is confiscated. He's like, look, we just want an assault weapons ban. We just want to take away everything.
I don't know if we can define what an assault weapon is.
He goes, assault weapon is. He like corrects himself. He's like, oh, maybe I can save it.
I don't know. Do you really think limiting them to less than 100 bullets is going to do anything? Yes. Yes, it is. Yes, it is going to save lives.
Most of the instances of gun violence don't involve assault weapons or magazines of over 100 bullets. So inadvertently, you're actually targeting people who, A, are not the majority of the criminals that you're targeting. If you want to go after the majority of the criminals, you're going to have to go after handguns, which you're going to have a whole issue there. I don't know what else to tell you, buddy. You're just up here proposing things that are never going to work. You live in America, you goddamn idiot. You need to understand that you're working in a system. You're not in Australia. I'm sorry, we're not as big of cowards. People talk about how tough Australians are. They had a buyback program, and a majority of them did it. They handed over the guns. They went ahead and and now they are being oppressed by their government just as ruthlessly as the United Kingdom is. Once you take the guns, you're able to absolutely oppress your people. It's inadvertent and it's real. And if you say that you're being a bit of you're being alarmist or whatever, it's proven that every single time. Mao took the guns, Hitler took the guns, every single person that targets a group of people, they take your guns first in order to make sure that you are not able to defend yourself. It's a fact. It's a fact. You can track it through history.
Just like the extreme risk protection orders, which I can pull quotes from many of these folks who said, this will do nothing. This will not protect lives. This will take away our freedoms. It's time to start reporting that is all bullshit. It does do something. It does make a difference. And to stand here and have to look in the eyes of parents who lost their little ones.
Oh my God. Oh my God. Enough. Stop. Just because you have people that are grieving to point at doesn't mean you should. How do you think these people feel being political pawns? They probably feel great because they're like, hey, at least my child is getting attention. They didn't have to die for nothing. But goddamn, it's ridiculous to go ahead and say, well, I have to sit here and I gotta look in the eyes of people. It's emotional plea. It's silly. I can't take it real. He has such Wizard of Oz energy, like, don't look at me behind the curtain, you know what I mean?
And to stand here and have to look in the eyes of parents who lost their little ones, shame on them. And shame on us if we don't get this done.
There you go. See, he goes like, shame, shame, shame on you. I'm sorry, guys. We gotta... Okay. I don't want to say Tim Walz needs to be ousted as like a person in the Democratic Party. But in terms of like, he is a Yoko Ono to our Beatles. Listen, Nancy Pelosi is a Beatle. Chuck Schumer's a Beatle. You know what I mean? These are classic old school Democrats. You know what I mean? Yoko Ono's of these parties. You know what I mean? That's AOC. That's Zora Mamdani. You know what I mean? It's these fellas that we have a good vibe going, guys. We're like generally liberal leaning. We just want to push forward, you know, decent policy, but we don't want to be ridiculous about it. We don't want to steal a bunch of people's money. It's the libertarian wing of the Democratic Party. It's a nice little party to be in. But then you have this nice groove going where we're out here making Sgt. Pepper. We're out here with Chuck Berry. We're out here, you know, hanging out. And then for some reason, we have this girlfriend, Yoko Ono, Tim Walz, who needs to, for some reason, be at the recording sessions. He needs to be at the Democratic National Convention. And then John Lennon, who was Kamala Harris, you know what I mean? She was a stay party member. She was like a common fixture where it was like, she's not maybe not the greatest person, but you know, she's the head. She's the head of the organization, and maybe we can get behind her. Then she just pulls out this weirdo from Minnesota who just, I'm sorry, Minnesotans, they're not the most normal people. I can vouch, I'm one of them. They are just kind of like, they say things that are out of turn, that are just weird, that are uncomfortable. Like, they have Yoko Ono energy where they just fuck up the flow. And I'm sorry, I have this example. We have this clip here that is actually, it is at the Democratic National Convention. It's actually Chuck Berry and John Lennon hanging out with Yoko Ono on the mic. They're playing music, and then, so essentially this is how it was. In this clip, Chuck Berry and John Lennon, that's Joe Biden, that is Kamala Harris. This was the state of the Democratic Party back in 2020, where these two were vibing. You know what I mean? We had the dementia patient and his black friend, and they were just hitting the bass together, and they were going, they were playing a good tune, and then all of a sudden, Tim Walz, this weirdo who took a bunch of visits to China when he was a youngin' in order to be influenced, goes ahead and hops on the mic at the DNC. This is Tim Walz at the DNC right after, while Joe Biden and Kamala Harris are playing the bass. This is Tim Walz hopping on the mic. Roll this tape. Please, please. That is just, listen, Tim goes on, he hops on, Yoko does all this weird shit that makes everybody uncomfortable. They go, wait, you're leaning into Maoist China too much. Your Elmer Fudd personality is slipping. I'm sorry, it fucks up the vibe. Yoko, we need to kick her out. We need to kick Tim Walz out. Her weird vocalizations are not helping the vibe. We need to move on. We need to do Abbey Road, you know? I'm sorry, guys, but we need to... This is the Beatles. The Democrats are the Beatles right now. And, you know what I mean? We need to find our flow again. We need to, instead of this kind of weird angle that we're going into, where it's like, it's Lucy in the Sky with Diamonds. It's like... We're in a weird kind of vision-y world where gender isn't real, where, like, you know... Maybe we should give black people all the money. Maybe we should just have no borders. Maybe we should let anybody in who wants to come in. You know, we're in a very kind of like you're traveling down a river, you're not really paying that much attention. We need to stop this kind of creative era that we've had with the Democratic Party that kind of it really occurred post-Obama, post his second term, because he was relatively mild-mannered and conservative in his first term. Then he went ahead and just went a little bit further. But I will just say, we need to find our footing again. We need to go Abbey Road. You know what I mean? We need to find the sun again. Here comes the sun. Doo-doo-doo-doo. That's got to be us. We have to find our vibe again. Otherwise, I swear to God, we're going to get shot outside a hotel. We are going to be shot outside a hotel by some glassed freak who's going to sit down next to our body while Tim Walz is crying, and then he's going to read Catcher in the Rye while the Republicans win every election from here to 2060 something.